I'm gonna have to change the start time from 5 to 5:30 because I'm late, and that just means it could happen again. My light's not on. And now it is. Okay, well, this is a little different than usual, but the camera seems a lot closer. Alright, well, that's what we got. Okay, get into a comfortable position. The first style of breathing that we'll do, which we do every day, is to breathe out through our nose rapidly, pushing all of the air out of your lungs. Try to do it at least once a second, but probably faster. So when you're doing that, you're thinking about forcing the air out of your lungs, not breathing back in. So you'll do that about 35 times, breathe out 35 times, and then after that, when you breathe out the final 35th time, or it doesn't matter, you can go more, but then hold your breath out on the last breath, and hold it out as long as you can. And when you're holding it out, don't clamp your throat. Just use all of your diaphragm and abdominal muscles to really just force the air out and keep it out. But if you were to relax those muscles, the air would be able to easily flow back into your lungs just through your throat, so you don't close here. And the same is true when you hold your breath at the top. The only thing stopping the air from escaping from my lungs is the fact that my diaphragm is expanded and that my chest is puffed out, and I'm holding it open and up with my muscles, not with the fact that I've created a balloon inside of me by clamping my throat after filling myself up, where I can just kind of, as long as I can maintain that muscle and the rest of my body doesn't spasm too hard from oxygen deprivation, you can more or less, maintain, or you can stop breathing for a while. But I think it's a different dimension altogether when you don't clamp that part and you just retain the breath by using your body as the system to your other muscles, the ones that you have control over that allow you. I mean, those are really the two ways you can stop breathing, right? You can either go, or even if you push or pull, you can close that part of your throat, which is how I think most people in the population hold their breath. Or the other style of holding your breath is you leave it open, but you just use what your body is doing to make it so that air is either going in or out. Like, and that way, if I want more air in my lungs, I have to open even more with my muscles, or if I'm going to let it go down, I can. Now, when you're collapsing down, you get down to this point where it's zero, it's kind of neutral, where you're not pushing air in or holding air out. So usually when I'm doing my exhale, I try to aim for getting to that point at around the halfway part, and then I spend the last half of the exhale trying to force and use my lungs not to relax them, but then actually use the other end of the spectrum to really clamp down and again, never clamping here, just really pushing with all of my muscles and my stomach and my chest, trying to force the air out of my lungs that way. So just crushing it out. Crushing might be too strong of a word, but pushing it out, I think. Anyways, I got pretty excited thinking about all that breathing, but it's best if we just do it. So let's begin. 35 breaths out through the nose, hold on the exhale, then hold on the top of the inhale, and then take 3 normal breaths and repeat. We'll do this probably 6 times, possibly 10. And as I said, when you start, you may need to blow your nose beforehand because I don't know what I was just doing. That's weird. Think about that. Now, I know I'm a bit off, but it only took me one section. So what I need is I need to pre-record the entire program in terms of like a timer and maybe the thing that's going. So, in a workout, it's like you can see something on the screen that tells you when the next exercise is coming or how much longer you have for your break. Probably something like that, so that at least there's some external framework, because when I start counting or breathing, as I hold my breath, it quickly changes my state of consciousness away from one in which linear number systems and my ability to measure units of time, that's one of the first things that's impaired. So it could be that, or maybe I'm just not good at paying attention to what's going on because I get caught up in thought, which means that maybe I just need to breathe a lot deeper. That was still only the first rep. Let's try again. Again. And again, with these breathing techniques, I'm self-taught, and I've basically been learning from books and things like that. So these are my experiments. If you see something wrong with my form or my technique, it's probably wrong, and you should probably point that out to me, and maybe I'll try something new with your advice and find that I could do things better. As I've also said, I often if there's any question to my ability or appropriateness for teaching this, it's probably not, but that's the beauty of YouTube, right? It's that people who aren't totally qualified to talk about things and to do things are able to share them with the world as they're, as they best see fit. And maybe that's one of the big problems we have out there, is that there's conspiracy theorists who don't know what they're talking about, but the internet does give them a platform to get people really scared. And it's not so much about what's true or not, but it's more about what story do people hear and say, yes, that must be what happened. Because when people say that, then they're gone forever. Because then you've accepted one model of how all this is working, and you'll be a slave to that model. And you're like, but my model is truth, my model is reality, my model is the one true model. And it's like, yeah, you know what? More and more when I hear that kind of stuff about objective reality and about the one single thing, like, I understand about scientific principles and scientific laws, and yeah, that makes sense, and I get it. But I would say that whether those things are or not, I'm not sure that the search for truth has any correlation with human happiness whatsoever, and it may actually be inversely proportional. Now, Spinoza and other people would say, no, that's not true. He'd say one of the greatest sources of human joy would be able to perceive structural similarities between things, but I'm not quite sure what kind of knowledge, and whether what kind of knowledge it is that allows us to perceive those structural similarities. Do you need to have separated everything into, species and genus, and to be able to see its relationship, or is it something that you more pick up on intuitively? And I'd say that for the notion of structural relationships that he's talking about is probably something more rational at this point. But then I think the thing that comes after that is this kind of notion that there is some sort of intuitive sense of things, like Christ vision or whatever he wants to call it. But he had to use those words because they were going to kill him if he didn't, and they were going to kill him anyways because he just couldn't stop talking about pantheism and how there isn't another world beyond this one, which is the thing that everybody sacrifices everything for. And he's like, basically, Spinoza's like, look at your book, it's written for children, and it's got good advice for men living together and women living together and everybody getting along together, but that doesn't have much to do with the natural laws of the universe. And so he said that there's man's law, which you find in the Bible or in other holy texts, and it's basically a bunch of children's parables to allow a society to function. But the moral system that it provides is based on an idealized image of man, which doesn't account for humans' actual behavior. And if you base your society on an idealized image of man and then he doesn't act accordingly, the society begins to have problems very quickly. And now that's been pretty universal, especially everywhere in the world, I think. But as soon as you've deified yourself, then you judge yourself against that, feel guilt, shame, pity, and you basically go through life considering yourself and all of your fellow creatures horrible sinners and brutes, worse than they were before you had discovered this God. So the godless man is actually the one who is able to be free from shame and pity for himself, because he no longer has an idealized fantasy of what he should be that's been projected up into the sky that now looks down at him, judges him, condemns him, and sentences him to, if not death in society, but at least death in terms of, his chance for actually living life and having joy. Because there's only one type of life that these moral systems approve of, and that's one that is, about as close to zero as you can get, but not dead. Mummified or cocooned. Cocoon, I believe, would be a better image than the mummy, because the mummy is dead, but the cocoon, there could be an insect that's been, no, not a cocoon, just, I don't know. I imagine some horrific image of people paralyzed with some sort of spider venom, wrapped and unable to move, just slowly waiting for, retirement, and then some golf packages and trips to Palm Springs and more comfortable housing and pictures of grandkids and people doing Skype and all this stuff, all the cliched things of this generation that there were probably just as bad, equally intolerable contradictions and examples of human ego flaring all over the place. But what else do we have? And we got to hold on to those things, right? Let's get on with it. The comedy. All right. Too much talking and no breathing. I've got misrepresenting information, false advertising. On the website, I said I'd start at 5 a.m. and it's already. I said don't stretch in the book on yoga. See, that's the thing, is it's like you read a book and it's like got all this list of rules about how you're supposed to breathe, and then it's constantly also like don't follow rules. There's too many rules, you're gonna mess it up, and it's like, yeah, I'll remember that too, right? Okay, here we go. The answer is very simple. It's just to sit. Same with meditation. You just relax more than you thought would be possible. Breathe deep. Follow the things that you're trying to do, but realize what the ultimate goal is, and that understand at a certain point. The managing and the experiencing sometimes start to conflict. No, there's a sweet spot which they both melt. That's it. Again. Okay. Now breathe in for 3 seconds, blow out for 3 seconds, or for 6 seconds, and then hold your breath out for 12 seconds. We'll do it 10 times. Okay. Next, breathe in for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 16 seconds, and blow out for 8 seconds. I'm using a 1-4-2 ratio of breathing, of inhaling for 1, holding for 4, and blowing out for 2. So whatever unit you assign, you can figure that out. When I'm walking, as I said yesterday, I often do a 2-second inhale, an 8-second hold, and a 4-second release. So let's go ahead and do 4, 16, 8 because we're seated. Ready? Begin. And I have my phone with me today, so I will use the timer just so that we can see what that's like again. Okay, breathe in. And out. And in. And hold. Again, breathe in. Okay, so that's 20 reps of that. That's all the breathing we'll do on the show today. If you just want to sit here for a second, relax, that's fine. the reason I do this. I mean, like I said, it's easy for me to make an instructional video and put it out there on the internet, and I could probably do a much better job in terms of the production quality and the ease of understanding and just not being a general idiot the entire time, because I would be able to edit. And I think the main point of why we stream, or why I'm streaming this, and why I'd invite you to come and join me every day, and actually I should probably be watching you rather than you watching me, but yeah, I've practiced this by myself for a while, so maybe that's the only reason. Or I've read books about it and thought about it and tried to make it a priority, so maybe that's just to have a little more practice recently with it, but that's about it. I mean, anyways. But if it's something where you think that the breathing brings you some benefit, if you experience it and you experiment with it and you find that it's giving you something good, then you should definitely do it every day. And I know that I have a problem that if I find something that's good for me, I'll do it for a while, and then the rest of life creeps up on me again. And you just wake up and there's all that stuff you have to do every day, and it's like, who's got time to go sit and chill out and breathe? Like, I mean, realistically, like, most of us don't. Some people do, and that's a good thing. And I think we all either make time or could probably reschedule our lives in a way that has time for that, because it seems to enhance things. Maybe it's placebo. It doesn't matter. It's not, though. I mean, you can end panic attacks and you can change your state of consciousness fairly quickly with it, and I don't think that's a placebo effect at all. I mean, it's just your body, your lungs, your heart and your brain and what's going on everywhere is completely interconnected. And so, if you've got a source to access it, yoga is a way that you can access all that. Breathing is a way you can do it. I guess yoga has traditionally used breathing as a way to access that as well. So, pranayama yoga is the art of breathing. So, here we go. When I'm meditating, I'm not concentrating. I'm not talking. I'm not doing anything. I have no purpose. I'm just sitting there, and that's the hardest thing for people to do, is to just sit with no purpose. There's lucky souls out there now, and there may have been societies in the past that, that's what people did, because the rest of life was so cathartic already. You've got war and famine and all the hard labor of life and just all the things that are happening. Life itself is so intense that being able to just sit down and chill out and have your brain do absolutely nothing during the do nothing point was super easy for everybody. But for people here who don't even use their hands anymore for their work, and I mean, not even like hard labor, but I mean, we don't even make things with our hands. Like back in the 19th century, even after it got dark, people would sit around in their houses around the fires, and they would like do handwork, and like people would carve things and make things and build stuff. And so basically humans have lost the ability to use their digits. We can type, but that's a little bit different than the ability to like hold a tool and make precision cuts in something, or to whittle, or to do some of the more advanced things with like needlework and stuff like that. Is just not available to us anymore, because we weren't raised doing it, and we just don't do that. And there's been a lot of studies that show that the people who do things with their hands, like that kind of work, report much higher happiness levels. I don't know if they're much higher, but I'm just going to throw that in. Much higher happiness levels. And what that means is that, well, I think that's getting back to that kind of main point, is that it was easy for people to do nothing in the past, but because of the fact that we do nothing all the time now, because we're pushing meaningless numbers around, and shuffling papers and doing things that, it has meaning in the social system, like the transference of land rights and stuff like that, and I guess it does tie into the whole biological thing as well at some level. But at the same time, watching CNN to find out what happens in the political arena was the word I think I was looking for, probably is not going to be an activity that after you're done, actually it might,
would lead you to be able to sit and do nothing because you've already lived fully during the previous moments, to the point at which, that little reprieve is something you look forward to, and you're like, or whatever your stance is when you sit and do nothing happily, but without effort too, and no goal in mind. Now, I think people are always trying to silence the mind, but if you look at what Zen people are saying, the mind is meant to be like a babbling brook. It's just doing its thing all the time. And I mean, that's what I do, is I just open my mouth and let whatever's happening in my mind flow out. Maybe it's not even, maybe I don't even think these thoughts until I actually start speaking. Who knows? But the main point of the idea of the babbling brook is that it doesn't stop. And so the thing, what if we, what if our definition of mental health was the free flowing of the brook, and that basically whatever comes into our consciousness, whether it's through a sensory, yeah, basically we are living through the senses, and that there's stuff that comes up in front of us and we think about it and deal with it and have responses to it, but then when it's no longer in front of us stimulating us, that we've moved on to the next thing, and that's a healthy way to go about things, and that a sickness would be memory, the memory of things that can't be digested properly, the things that you never got over, the things that cause you resentment and regret, the things that really, well, all of your fears, kind of hopes and fears for the future stem from your experiences of things in the past. And so it seems like that's most people now, because we haven't had the cathartic life experiences that people probably used to have in some societies, that we are unable to sit down and even enjoy a break, because the rest of our time is also kind of creepily similar to the break, but at the same time with a moralistic stance that it shouldn't be, and a bunch of other weird stuff going on, plus the fact that we spend all of our time, from the time we're kids, indoctrinating everybody into these weird metaphysical systems of, like, law, economy, education, all these things that are just, I know when you hear metaphysics you think like, the occult and things like that, but I just think anything that doesn't have corporal reality, language. Anyways, talk to you soon.